Hi guys, Philip Good here. I am an unconditional love coach and a relationship healer. This video is about chapter 12 of my book, Ignited by the Bottle, Delivered by the Fist. And this is an ongoing series of recordings and videos I'm doing prior to transcribing it and putting it into book form. Okay. So the title of this video is Reconnection and Marriage. I don't know whether you recall in chapter 11, my last video, my wife to be, or a fiance at that stage, I guess, or we hadn't even made that decision, I guess. I'm jumping ahead of myself. But no, my wife to be, my wife of now 48 and a half years, had gone to Australia, to Canberra actually, in Australia, to be there for her older sister who was having her first baby, and she had complications and therefore was in hospital, with things like protein and swelling and so on, so I was there and she actually got a job as a dietitian at the Canberra hospital where her sister Marion was actually a patient. So Eileen could be closer to her sister. And so I was continuing, carrying on farming in New Zealand. So I was working for a place called Marvin Relief Farm Services. So I was managing one farm for 2 or 3 months and managing another one for a period of time and so on. So let's fast forward 12 months. In the meantime, over that period of 12 months, before Eileen and I reconnected back again to Whitianga in the Coromandel Peninsula at the beach, of course, in summer, our favourite spot. I must say, in that 12-month period, I wrote one letter, right? Yes, I'm not the best writer. I'm not as consistent as Eileen wrote me a few letters. I wrote one, but she did say to me later it was a very good letter. So I guess, there's a bit of a reprieve there, I guess, and a bit of forgiveness that, and anyway, fast forward. So we're back to reconnecting at Whitianga. So our relationship, our reconnection, and our love sort of grew, and what we did was, over the course of our time there on holiday at the beach, we had some really in-depth talks about the prospect of our relationship deepening and going further. So we dearly wanted to discuss what we both wanted in our relationship and our possible marriage. So of course, as you've heard in past videos, that we both grew up with violence, right? Horrific violence for myself, and really horrific violence for Eileen as well. And a lot of that was due to our fathers getting out of control, after drinking alcohol, like whiskey or, beer and whiskey, a combination, getting out of control and becoming violent and physically violent in particular. A lot of beating, bashings and hitting and so on. So quite volatile, quite graphic stuff. So of course, when we had our heart-to-heart lie down on the beach and talking about what we wanted, obviously we didn't want violence. Eileen's concern was that, my father was a drinker, hers was, and did I drink or not? And I reassured her that no, I didn't. My father totally put me off drinking alcohol for life, pretty much. And that's the way that I've always been. I've pretty much been a teetotaler. Okay, I've had the odd sort of stubby with my brothers when they've come around but I've never been drunk once in my life, and I'll pass from this life like that, not ever having been getting drunk. That's just me. It's ingrained in me, right? I've seen so many horrible things as a result of alcohol to put me off for life. I never missed it. I never craved it. Never went there. So I had nothing to miss, right? So I reassured Eileen that no, I wasn't a drinker. I couldn't stand it, and explained all the reasons why. So she had to take me at my word for that. But continuing on our, what we sort of almost like formulated a plan or set of plans, like a strategy. And later we knew what we're actually formulating was actually a blueprint for our life together. And we discussed how we wanted to interact with each other, how we wanted to converse, our conversations that would be cool, calm, and collected. Okay, we're obviously going to get heated at some stage, but we had a really strong love connection. We really did. We had a deep caring for one another. We had deep respect. We were physically attracted to one another, obviously. So those are the things we discussed. And one thing Eileen said, which had to be a yes from me for our relationship to go forward, and that is, she'd always seen 4 children, and if I didn't want 4 children, it's all over, right from the word go, or before we even got to go, I guess. So I said, "Oh no, that's fine, love. I'm happy with that as well. If you're happy, I'm happy, right?" So then things, just blossomed and grew from there, and of course the holidays came and went, and Eileen was remaining in New Zealand, and that she went and actually worked in her brother's cafe restaurant in Hamilton in the North Island, New Zealand, and I was sort of around the Waikato, the South Waikato, and around Hamilton, working and managing farms while owners were, absentee, either in hospital or away on holiday and so forth, or short-handed. So anyway, we got, things got stronger and stronger, and our relationship blossomed, and so we come to the conclusion that we wanted to live together, right? So anyway, I applied for a position as a contract milker. That is, you sort of manage a herd of cows on a contract basis. You paid so much back in those days, it was so much per 1,000 kilos of milk solids, and then it was based on that. So we both Eileen and I went to the interview with this job we're going for up in a place called Wellsford. It's in North Auckland, actually. It's probably maybe an hour, maybe not quite an hour, but an hour north of Auckland in New Zealand. So anyway, went to the interview, got the job, and it was a job contract milking 300 or 330 cows. So I started there in about February. This is February 1977. Yes, way back in 1977, a long time ago. And so we both moved into it was like what you call a Keith Hay house. It was an as new home we moved into on the farm in Wellsford. And I started there in February, in a sort of like an assistant manager's role until the 1st of June when I started as the contract milker. And the purpose of starting in February was to get a few months, get to know the farm, the cows, and so on, the layout, and Eileen and I could settle into the house as well. So we found out that Eileen was pregnant. We found out probably in about March, April, that she was pregnant with our first baby. And at that stage, we were sort of discussing, we were living together, but we hadn't sort of decided to get married at that point. But it was in the wings. We were talking about it. And I can always remember Eileen's father saying to me, "So you guys are living together." So he said to me, "So you're trying before you're buying, are you?" And but anyway, that's what we decided. I popped the question, and so we decided to get married. And of course, Eileen picked the date. It was the 7th. It was to be a Saturday, the 7th of May, 1977. So, and believe it or not, we discovered. So we got married on this, like I said, on the 7th of May. It was a lovely wedding, and funny enough, my own parents they didn't give Eileen and I a wedding present until 12 months after we were married because they didn't believe our marriage would last longer than 12 months. And my parents did not have a wedding photo with Eileen and I at all. Eileen's parents did, but my parents did not. And it was hard to understand. I couldn't understand why, but there you go. And but as far as the wedding present goes, I'll just briefly explain that. So after 12 months, yes, my parents did front up with the wedding present, and it was a chest of drawers. The drawers themselves were made out of cardboard, right? So at times when the weather changed, the cardboard would swell and the drawers would get sort of, hard to open and close. There wasn't, real wood. It was like particle board, like it was chipboard put together, basically pressed together. And so, I'd get the drawers would get stuck. So a couple of years down the track, I got sick of that. So I took the chest of drawers out and I literally put the axe through it and burnt it. So that was me in a feel good moment. And so anyway, so we continued dairy farming at Wellsford. We were there for 2 years, and then after that, we decided to go share milking. 50/50 share milking which is buying a herd of cows, dairy cows this is, for milking, buying a herd of cows, tractor and implements. And so eventually we got a contract in just outside Hamilton, actually, on River Road in Hamilton, just outside on the outskirts of Hamilton. So I moved down there on 1st of June 1979. So 1977 to 79, we were at Wellsford. 1st June 1979, we were in Hamilton on River Road, share milking there. We're there for 4 years. And that's where we, of course, we had to assemble a herd of cows, and we were hard pressed for cash there. It was touch and go, and and when we went to buy a herd of cows, we were told by the stock agent that there were only 2 herds of cows available at the price we wanted to pay or had to pay to balance our budget, to get into the farm and so on, to get into the job and with a herd of cows and tractor machinery. And can remember we went what's the first herd of cows, the second herd of cows, and the agent said, well, if you don't buy this herd of cows, then the price is going to go up $100 a head, which totally blew our budget. So anyway, we were over there at the cow shed with the stock agent, waiting for the cows to arrive so we can inspect them and so on. And I was standing out in the cow shed yard, and the stock agent said, for heaven's sake, don't stand in the cow shed yard. The cows will crush you. And I said, what? And he said, stand, down in the pit. It was like a herringbone cow shed with 2 aisles out either side for the cows to walk up, and then a pit that the milker walked down in to put the cups on the cows and so on to inspect the cows. And anyway, we saw this great cloud of dust, and we heard the thunder of hooves, and these cows were running down what we call the race, like what brings the cows down a raceway. The cows walk down and on their way to the cow shed from whichever paddock they were in. Anyway, we could hear the cows thundering. They were actually running. They weren't walking. They were running. And behind them was a little Indian guy with a big stick that was taller than he was. And he was probably only 5 foot, 5'2", only a little guy. But he had a big stick that was probably about 6 foot high. And he had a huge big dog running beside him, and they were running. They're both running, the dog and this guy, running behind the cows. And normally a race is raced right to the cowshed entrance, but this particular race on this farm was not. The race ended, and you had a little holding paddock, and the cows went around the holding paddock and into the back of the cowshed yard. So So I was quite horrified, and of course the dog rounded up the cows, and they went flying into the yard, and like the agent, I was feeling, thank heavens that we were down in the pit and not standing up in the way of the cows, because the cows just not only came flying into the cowshed yard, they went flying up the aisles of the yard, and they were just standing there trembling, right? Trembling. I was so scared. And I said to the agent, "Are you sure this is the only herd of cows I've got to choose from?" He said, "Yes, otherwise you're going to pay another $100 a head," which I couldn't afford. So anyway, I sorted out the cows and so on, and we decided we had to take them. We had to take the cows at the price they were offered, because that's all we could afford. And a friend of Eileen's older sister, he was a farmer, not too far, a dairy farmer as well, and he was selling a few cows. So we bought a few of his cows that he was selling that were, not really, they were destined for the freezing works, but he said they're better than that, and they would sort of, you know, get us up to our numbers, for the start of the dairy season on the 1st of June. And then so it would be okay with our budget, our financial budget. So we did that, and thinking, oh my God, what's it going to be like when they start calving? Look what they used to be, and they're so scared, and been taught to run down the race. They had a big dog behind them, and we didn't have any dog at all. So anyway, when Eileen and I moved down there in the spring, in the winter, 1st of June, and 1979, and then they started calving sort of around about or early July. And anyway, the first cows started calving and stuff, and came into the cow shed, and I was wondering what they're going to be like. Were they going to be shaking? Were they going to be highly strung and upset? But you know what? The whole herd turned out to be the quietest herd you could ever imagine. Because I treated them gently, with care and attention, and with a lot of love, and they responded in turn. So they ended up the quietest cows you could imagine. It's almost like they were so grateful for being well treated. They responded the same way. But before I finish this video, I'll give you 2 examples. So at that stage, we had Eileen. Eileen had obviously we had our eldest daughter, Rebecca, and Eileen was pregnant with our son Graham. He was to be born at 1979, and towards the end of September. Anyway, Eileen decided at one point that she would come over and help me milk, and I said, "Oh, you don't have to, love. So you've got enough on your plate and so on with Rebecca and pregnant and stuff." And she said, "Oh no, I just want to try and help, if you don't mind." And I said, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, fine, yeah." So anyway, she came over to the cow shed and put on the cow shed apron for her, and she came down ready to put on the first set of cups of her first cow. And somebody that's really inexperienced is a dairy farmer. The cow, if you haven't put cups on cows before, a cow knows it. They know it when you're a newbie, right? You just tell because you're hesitant with your touch and so on. So they know, who's this person? This person's scared, right? And of course, the very first cow Eileen put the cups on, this is in the springtime, so a bit loose with their poos and so on. And so she went to put the first cup on, and the tail went up, and before I could do anything, the cow literally shat on or pooed on Eileen's. It went down, sort of down on the forehead and down her face. And I was thinking, should I turn the high pressure hose on? No, that'll be divorce. So I said, "Oh, gee, I'm sorry, love." And I was trying to wipe it off, and you were going, I gotta go, I gotta get out of here, and so on. So anyway, she said, she went back home, got herself cleaned up, and it took her about another month before she said, "Oh, I've got it worked out now, Phil. I've got it worked out." I said, "Oh, how's that, love?" And she said, "Oh, I'm going to wear a pair of sunglasses, right?" I said, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea, love. Yeah, yeah, yeah." So anyway, she came over to the cow shed again, and went to put the cups on the first cow again, and you wouldn't believe it, or you probably would, but this cow literally, literally shat on again, and it all ran down inside her sunglasses and all that. Just going around going, Phil, 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 Phil. And I was thinking, should I turn on the high pressure hose and give her a wash down? I thought, hell no, I better not do that. It'll be divorce, right? So anyway, so she got out. She said, that's it. I'm out of here. That's the end of the cows for me. I'm gone. See you later. But funny, after that time, it was about after Graham was born in the end of September. She did come back a bit while later. She said, I've got the kids set up. I think I've got it sussed. I'm ready to go again. So anyway, third time lucky. She nailed it. And from that point onwards, she was the best milker. She was the best calf rearer you could possibly imagine. She loved calves. She loved our kids, loved our kids to bits. She was a great mum, and she had that motherly instinct, and she was a great mum to our calves as well. We had to take the calves off their mums, to come into the cow shed to be milked and so on. She was the best mother to our calves as well, so, and she ended up an expert after all that. But, it's like starting off as a newbie, but she had tenacity and resilience and never gave up. So, anyway, it ended up all good. We worked together all our married lives and all the farms we were on. Like I said, we've been married now 48 and a half years. We're in 2026 this year. As we'll be married on the 7th of May, we'll be married 49 years. One more year to our 50th. And our parents said that our marriage wouldn't last 12 months. But I can certainly say that the quality of our marriage, our relationship with one another, the love, the unconditional love we have for each other, always have had, has been far, far superior than either of our parents' relationships and marriage. My parents had all sorts of problems. Eileen's parents had all sorts of problems and issues. But it's funny, I did say this before that Eileen and I even got married. My father-in-law, Ray, Eileen's dad, said to us both, before we got married, that our marriage will be the best out of all of his children. And guess what? He was right. And Eileen's dad died of cancer when he was only 54 years of age, on the 18th of the 8th, 1981, 4 years after we were married. Eileen lost her dad. But he said that our marriage would be the best out of all of his children. And he was 100% right. Okay, guys, I'll leave it there and just say that I unconditionally love you as an unconditional love coach and a relationship healer. And if I can help any of you guys with your relationship, with your marriages, I'm only too pleased to help you. I'm an unconditional love coach, a relationship healer, and if you need help, I'd love to help you. And it's easy. If you're off track with your relationship, it's easy to get back on track. Believe me, it's easy. With a couple of changes, you'll have a magical relationship, a dream marriage like Eileen and I. 100% guarantee it. Hand on heart. Love you guys. Bye for now. See ya.